what you want and how you make something, you can break any rule you want. But you have to understand the fundamental things about what you're doing first. Understand the rules. And then once you know that, then you can break it all you want. But if you don't know that, then you don't know what you're doing. So she was really, really critical in sort of like helping me understand, realize some of the ideas that I had, and just watching her work and working with her when and everything else really, really helped me through. There are people in my mom's family, my mom's friends. When she was divorced, she made really amazing friends, and they sort of became sort of like people who came into my life and helped me along in my childhood, growing up, feeling different, and having them as sort of beacons and saying that you're amazing, you're great, and you do, because I viewed the world as like, why is everybody so different than me, and then I was more different, and accepting all of that, and making it okay. And then it sort of translated to my life today, and said, everyone's so diverse, we're all here, we all have different backgrounds and different things, and that, we all have value and we contribute differently in your own way, and that's really important and stuff. I've had really great mentors through, friends. My friend Rona, who lives in Marblehead, Massachusetts, she's amazing. She's been an amazing friend to me. And there's a whole side to being human, and being sort of like, just being another there's I hate to be, the spiritual side of it, and just seeing beyond the obvious, seeing beyond things, and that's really helped me, navigate through tough things, that in my head was like, I don't get people, but then, you do get people when you think about it. You just have to eliminate the rhetoric, and stuff. So, yeah, a lot of people, even kids, I was a Sunday school teacher, and and kids were amazing, and they sort of like taught me a lot, about just the innocence of things, and they challenged me. I used to teach Sunday school, and we talked about things from the Bible, and they would challenge me things, and just the honesty of that was really, really amazing.
So, mentor that had the biggest influence on me was Lisa Salamone, who used to work for Gap Inc. When I came over to Gap after having left Talbot's, I was there after I graduated college for about a year and a half in a program similar to RMP. And because of my iBanking internship background and finance and marketing major, going into product, what didn't really make sense on a piece of paper for me at first. So I started inventory management, which in retrospect I think was one of the greatest blessings for my career in really understanding that portion of the business, and really how you have to balance left brain, right brain. And I'd be in a lot of meetings when I was working in Gap in inventory management for denim and bottoms. And I would be in the meetings and I would always take a product spin on the conversations that I had. I would go in and say, maybe if you came up with a different assortment for hot stores during a time period, this would work better. Or I would come up with localized color strategies, and it was always product-led. And Lisa was somebody who I think took interest in me, and I always found her to be somebody who I found really inspiring. And so I'd set up some time with her to talk about product. And I was an analyst at the time, and she's running all of merchandising. And she made the time for me to see, I guess, something in me that I hadn't even really realized was the talent that I had. And she made the suggestion that I merchandise the pants line for women's bottoms. And the merch manager at the time was like, what's happening? You're letting this analyst merchandise my line? And it was Michelle Carrara, and she was a little surprised that this was happening, but then I think, quickly took on to it, and they said, okay, well, you merchandising it, and we'll see how it does. And if it does well, then maybe we'll consider you as a candidate to move over into merchandising. But Lisa really like helped guide me along the way, and I would bounce ideas off of her, and then came up with a skirt strategy. I'm dating myself, but skirts were really popular, and they thought I was crazy, and I was like, well, shorts are working, skirts are working, but everybody's wearing skirts. Don't you think we should go after skirts? And it was a new product category, and so within bottoms, I said, I think you also need this skirt category, so they let me do it. And it was a bestseller, and sales to inventory was off the charts, and they said, maybe we should consider you moving over into merchandising. And so then I really looked at both international, because I have this minor in French, and I try to act like I really speak it, but I don't really speak it that well, but I'll practice with anyone who wants to help me with my skills. And found a great fit in moving into bottoms during the Khaki Swing campaign and helping to merchandise that assortment. So having her as somebody who really saw something in me, believed in me, helped me along the way in figuring out the path, I think enabled me to really go into this merchandising career. And because of that, I think it's changed me as a leader. I have a lot of people on my team who've come from other categories, and I appreciate that, the diversity of thought that they bring from not necessarily having been groomed through just merchandising track. And I find myself at times as a mentor to a lot of people who are looking to make career changes within the company, to move from one category to another, to try to get different experiences, because it's something that I found as a success. And I think for the people who've moved from those categories into other functions, at least on my team, I've seen great success. So I think it's something that I find really important along the way.
Thank you, thank you. So I was going through my mental Rolodex to try to figure out what do I know how to say in French, and all I know is responses. So that's not going to help, but maybe we'll practice later. So this is a question for everyone, and it's not on anything I've sent you guys, but it's just one of the things where I think when people come out to hear leaders talk, they also want to hear about what are those nuggets that are important to you that help really drive. I think I heard some of them, but I'm going to ask you all to tell for this group that's listening, what are some of the key themes or the tenets of you as a leader, and for them to know and be able to take back to really incorporate into who they are and who they will become as leaders?
Someone once told me a long time ago, and it's always stuck with me, and this is pretty much how I am. People don't remember what you did for them, but they remember how you made them feel. And that has always stuck with me, because it's true in life, right? You feel things, and you forget other things. But what you feel sticks with you. So it has been really critical for me as a person, human being, and to remember that.
I would say probably one of the biggest things for me is being yourself at work. And I think when you try to be something that you're not or fit into a mold because you think that's the culture here, or that's the personality here, and it's different from who you really are, you're spending a lot of time and energy away from actually doing your job and being productive. And so, I think it's funny, particularly with me here now at Old Navy, as most of you can probably tell based on my clothing and shoe collection, I don't really dress like most people here, right? And so and that's fine. I think a lot of people would have said, oh, I've got to come into Old Navy and I've got to fit in, right? I need to be more casual, I need to do this. And I get, ribbing here or there, like, why do you always say dress up? Are you interviewing? Like, not interviewing, I promise I'm not going anywhere. But it's who I am. It's just how I like to dress, it's my style, it's just me. And so I could put on a uniform of sorts, but it wouldn't feel authentic to who I am. And so that's probably one of the biggest things, because I think you can give more of yourself to your job, to your passion, to your team, to your teammates, when you're really just being you at work. And I think we're all fortunate, quite frankly, to work in a place where it is very accepting of whoever you are, however you come. So don't feel this tremendous need to sort of change and mold yourself to fit in. You'll just be a better, happier person at work if you don't.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I think what's key for me too is like it's love what you do and show it. I think people can really tell when you're frustrated, and it really shows and really brings people down. If you don't like what you do, then do something else. And it's, to me, it's like the same thing as with Lenard. It's like it's make people feel good, and it's a journey, and like bring them along, but tell them where you're going. I think it's really confusing when they don't know where they're going, and it's fearful, and nobody really wants to be in the boat, because they don't know where they're going, if they're going to fall off a cliff, or what's going to happen. So if you just tell them this is where they're going, are you in or are you out, and then as you go, to take care of them.
For me, I'd say that it's all about respect, and that it's business, it's not personal when you're at work. But the personal part is really important in terms of respect. So for me, I found when I have the most contentious conversations with someone who personally knows me well, it goes over a little bit easier, because they know that where I'm coming from is from a true business standpoint, and it's not about me personally not liking your point of view. It's about what's right for the business. So it's odd advice that I give people and that I've taken on for myself, but if I really am struggling with someone, I usually ask them for coffee, a glass of wine, or out to dinner, which seems odd for a person who you're really struggling with. But what I'm trying to do is build a mutual respect on a personal level with someone who I have to interact with in a business sense. And I think then if they're knowing me and they know that where I'm coming from is a good place, and that the conversation that might be contentious is 100% because of the business context, then the decisions and the conversations become so much easier. Which I know it seems a little odd, because there's this, work is work and your personal life is your personal life. And I think that's important, but at the same time, for me, that's been the easiest thing for me to kind of build relationships. If things are difficult at times, especially in leadership roles, I think a lot of times you're seen making quick decisions, or having to act really rapidly on where you're giving direction for a whole team of people. And if your co-leaders you don't have that personal sense of respect for each other, then I think it's really difficult, and it makes it's just business a little bit easier.
So I love what I heard. So passion, really care about people and understand what they want. I love the authenticity, Christian, and respect. I mean, these are 4 tenets that, as a leader, if you really look at those and live by those, you'll have a team or people really understand who you are. And for me, I just want to add, my one piece is always, you never know who's watching. So, and what that means for me is that, as a leader and as an individual, people are always watching you. I say to my son all the time, it's not what you do when people are watching and you know they're watching, it's what you do when no one's around. And so, one of the stories I like to tell, and actually it's about Keith White. If you guys know Keith White, he's the SVP of loss prevention. And I had a meeting just last week with Gap Brand, and someone was telling a story about Keith White. And so I told him, I said, hey, someone had some great things to say about you. And he said, oh, I don't even know who that individual is. And I looked at him and I said, you know how you always, we talk about, when people are, you're not sure if people are watching? That's what it's about. And we actually sat there in the cafeteria and said, yeah, it's important. So when you're standing in front of a room, or when you're in the cafe dealing with someone, people are watching and really saying, what type of person is this individual? And it allows you to be a better leader. So those are all prepared. I want to say thank you to the panelists. So can we give them a hand before we go to the I know all of you guys came here early to listen to them and hear their statements, but I know there's some questions that popped up. I had about 15 that really popped up in my head. So this is an opportunity for you folks in the room to ask questions to our panelists and myself as well. So we're going to do, we don't need a mic, you guys can just, speak loudly.
Tim Smith, from the Eastern Territory. So I'm from the South, North Carolina. And went to Eastern Territory. But the comment you made about the whole being taught to keep your head down, the results should speak for itself. How did you break that pattern of understanding also you have to not just deliver the results, but also kind of show the results? But for me, I find that almost like, I'm not one to like to pat myself on the back or rah, rah, rah. For me, so how do you break that pattern so that you, not just allow your work to speak for itself, but you do it in a way that you feel comfortable, that you're not just
Yeah, I think it goes back to my last point about being yourself at work was what kind of helped me. Because when your results speak for yourself, you're kind of in a box to a degree, more reserved, professional, kind of at arm's length with people. And I think the big thing that helped me was saying, it's okay to be me.